to introduce our panel, and you guys are very lucky because we have such an eclectic, diverse panel with amazing skills that they can share with you today. I'll just go through introductions and read their bio, and then we'll open it up to you guys later on at the end for questions. So the first guest that we have is Beth Despres. Beth graduated from York University with an honors BA in dance, BFA in dance, in 2003, and is now a Toronto-based physiotherapist and independent dance artist. Following graduation, she pursued a career in dance performance and pedagogy. She has the honor of working with choreographers Tracy Norman, Denise Fujiwara, Harry Krishnan, Angie Anand, Jessie Dell, and is a company member of Toronto's In Dance. In addition to being meticulously trained in ballet and modern dance, Beth has studied Butoh, Flamenco, Bharatanatyam. Beth has also taught dance at the recreational, competitive, high school, and university levels. In 2008, she completed a master's degree in physiotherapy at the University of Toronto and is now truly fortunate to be enjoying parallel careers in health science and the arts. So that's amazing insight right there. The next guest we have is Estelle. Estelle is dedicated, disciplined, and a passionate workaholic. I could seriously attest to that. I've known Estelle for like 20 years. And she's been born and raised in Toronto. She is co-founder and executive director of City Dance Corps, one of Toronto's leading dance schools, and it's currently in its 12th year of business. How amazing is that? She is a diverse and strong artist with an extensive background in dance and performance. She's trained in ballet, jazz, hip-hop, house, Afro-Cuban, swing, hustle, salsa, and Argentine tango. She has worked professionally in the entertainment industry for over 20 years. With a deep passion to innovate and constantly create, Estelle thrives on applying her dance knowledge and experience to her classes for everyone. In 2001, Estelle created her own conditioning technique classes, ballet boot camp, and power bar. She's also recognized for her salsa tango fusion style and has traveled nationally and internationally mentoring and coaching dancers. Next up, we have Jasmyn Fyffe. She is a powerhouse. I don't know if you guys have seen Pulse, but it recently went on an amazing run, and it's gotten some great reviews. So Jasmyn is described as a young artist whose body of work is developing in style of all on her own. Fyffe was the recipient of the 2013 Frankie Award in Montreal for Outstanding Choreography for her 40-minute work, Pulse. She has been commissioned by Dance Ontario, City Dance Corps Youth Company, Earl Hicks Secondary School, Martha Hicks School of Ballet, Wish Opera, Obsidian Theatre, and many, many more. She's produced 4 shows in Toronto, both independently and in collaboration with other choreographers over the past 5 years. This past summer, Fyffe participated in an arts festival in Sinop, Turkey, called Sinopil, where she created and performed a solo and set choreography on youth dancers. As an independent dancer, Jasmyn has performed in the touring musical Umoja. She's performed with Nelly Furtado, Gadfly, Hannah Keel, Red Sky Performance, Artists in Motion, Dance Migration, Keja Dance, Kasha Dance, and more. Fyffe is indisputably a talented performer and dance maker, says Kathy Smith from the Dance Current. And last but not least, we have Hollywood Jade, who is another amazing leading artist in the city. He is a dancer, choreographer, creative director, TV personality, actor, and host. Hollywood has been a consistent fixture on many levels in the entertainment and dance world for almost a decade. He has produced, choreographed internationally in Dubai, Mexico, Jamaica, and worked as an assistant choreographer for artists such as Danny D. Kane, The Dream, and Snoop Dogg. As a dancer, he's performed with the likes of Khalees, Nelly Furtado, Timbaland, Hilary Duff, Rihanna. Hollywood Jade has been featured in music videos, award shows, movies like Save the Last Dance 2, Camp Rock 2, and the blockbuster hit Hairspray, and most recently, the soon-to-be-released Make Your Move by director Dwayne Adler. As a choreographer, he's worked with a lot of leading female artists such as Divine Brown and Keisha Shante, and is currently working as choreographer, creative director for Julie Black. on her new upcoming tour. He is an innovator in Toronto dance community, and he's wanted to continue to expand the industry and create a production called Hollywood Presents Urbanesque, one of Toronto's most unique and sexy urban dance productions. So as he always says, success lies on the other side of fear. So he continues to push boundaries and move forward fearlessly, which hopefully something we can instill in you guys today. So what we're going to do today is I'm just going to let the panel speak for themselves. We're going to give them a chance to give you a glimpse into what we say a typical but very untypical, unpredictable day in the life of a dancer. And then we'll open it up to questions to you guys.
Like we said, I'm one of the owners of City Dance Corps, and I started off as a full-time dancer and was teaching classes as a means to be paying for my university. And then from there, it just started kind of rolling through from one thing to the next, and classes started to keep evolving, and then before you know it, I had a school. So a typical day for me is not waking up and planning my dance classes anymore, like what it used to be. I do run the whole entire school, so it's making sure that scheduling is always done. And I wear a lot of different hats, so we do teacher training as well, we do dancer training and mentoring, as well as I myself work on a lot of corporate events. So I'm constantly booking dancers and performers for different types of corporate functions, and we also do a lot of team building sessions. So there's a lot that you can do with your dance as long as you stay creative with it and open-minded. So that's a typical day for myself. Is my dance classes I teach at the end of the day, so it's more about structuring my day from the morning, and then I work my way through. So typically corporate functions are the first thing, the school, so yeah, it's very complicated. Yeah.
Sure, Jasmyn.
Hi guys. Hi guys. Wow.
They just ate, that's fine.
We're just like, typical day, okay. Well, to be honest with you, there really is no typical day for me. Every single day is very different. That's just it. But I'll take a day. So I have a son, he's 5. I attempt to wake up at 6:30. I press snooze about 3 times. These days it's been getting bad because I've been really tired, because I actually work every single day, 7 days a week, which is crazy. My goal for 2015 is to see if I can find a day off. I just haven't been able to do that quite yet, especially since I just closed my show, so it's just been crazy. Anyway, so I wake up around 6:45, get things in order, breakfast, all that kind of stuff. Once I get him to school, that's the first thing, get that done, get him to school, boom. Then I'm either running to a rehearsal, a class, or if I don't have an actual rehearsal or class or workout, because I do yoga and I also work out, then I will do admin, so catch up, and I'm always behind on that, always. Never caught up with admin work, ever. Whether it's, grant final reports, whether it's stuff for my taxes, whether it's invoicing, whether it's something for dance, something, always behind. So I'll do that, and then I'll either, if it's a night where I'm teaching at one of my studios, I teach at about 5 or 6, 5 I think, I'll go to one of my studios, go teach, and then I'll often another rehearsal, or if I have to pick up my son, it's always something different. And I guess for me, it's been really just bouncing around and trying to figure out how the collective picture makes one income and makes one picture for myself. So I teach in schools, right now I'm at a school choreographing on top of the studios, and then I just finished my show, and I have rehearsals for another show, you know what I mean? So it's kind of just finding all the holes and figuring out where they all fit, and then making the day. So every day is actually really different. I don't know if that gives you an idea or not, but it's madness. But I love it, but it's crazy, so.
Hi guys.
Hi. Oh.
No, you were the warm-up. My name is Hollywood Jade, and I work predominantly in the commercial world of dance. So with artists, music videos, well, not so much of music videos anymore, but movies, TV, that type of stuff. So very similar to Jasmyn's, I don't have a typical day, because every day brings on something different. And right now, commercially, the industry is really slow. There's not a whole lot of things happening commercially. So as a result of that, I created, as she mentioned, my own urban dance company. So I have, anytime, like, if, let's say, for example, if I'm doing a show, that's when my life is super crazy, because I choreograph, I direct, I style, I produce, I do everything for my show. So I would wake up around 7:30, and it's just nonstop go. But if I'm not doing a show, then I'll have rehearsals with an artist like Julie, or I might have a show with Julie. So every day is different. There's not really a typical day for me. Like, so example, if I have a show with Julie or something, like, I know sound check will probably be sometime in the afternoon. So I get up, go to the gym, make breakfast, pack my stuff for the show, go do sound check, we'll have lunch, I'll have a break somewhere in there, probably usually I'll like run and teach a class, and then I'll come back. Every day brings on something completely different, you know what I mean? So it's working in the commercial industry for me, it's really about finding ways to keep yourself busy between auditions and gigs or whatever the case is. Ideally, it's really good when like you land a job that works for like 2 or 3 months. Hasn't happened in a while, but you know, like finding that job, because then it's a lot easier for you to plan like a typical day. But none of my days are ever the same, really.
So I wanted to go last because I definitely have a typical day. My days are more boring and regular and usual, maybe, than any of your days. So I work full-time as a physiotherapist now, and I lecture at the university, so I have a typical day where I go to work all day, every day. So the challenge really there is finding time to stay in shape, to do that by dancing whenever possible, but that's not always possible, especially when most professional level dance classes and auditions are held during the working day. So my challenge is to find dance activities and alternate to dance fitness activities, like Jasmyn was saying, with yoga and martial arts and whatever you can find. And then the other main challenge is to stay in touch with the dance community, to network and make sure that even though I'm not present at daytime auditions and professional classes, which is where most of you are probably intending to do your networking, that I still get asked to perform in things. And that I can work out with the people that I'm working with, that those rehearsals can happen during off-work hours, so evenings and weekends, which means in a typical day I might go to work for 8 or 9 hours and then from there go to a rehearsal and try and bring my artistic self separate from what I've just done all day, even though I'm exhausted, which I'm sure we all know about. And then I still do a little bit of teaching, mostly physiotherapy and some dance. There you go.
So just a couple of questions I'm going to throw out there for you guys that could hopefully be helpful for you. What would you say, and anybody can take this question, was the biggest misconception that you had when you were maybe in the early stages of your career in school, and you had this vision of, when I graduate, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be a dancer, and I'm going to, you had all these dreams, which is fantastic, but as we all know, or as we know, that after graduation is a bit of a reality check where you sort of get to see what it's really like out there. Not to scare you, but just to prepare you for what lies ahead. So what would you say would be the biggest,
For me, I didn't go to like post-secondary for dance. That I'm like, I call it like a natural dancer. You play music and I just started moving, and it's always been like that. So what I really wanted to do was musical theater. Like, I love musical theater. And I applied and I didn't get in because it was this whole double cohort thing. Not that I wasn't good enough, okay? I got letters from all the schools that I applied that they really wanted me, but they just couldn't. There was no space. Just need to clear that up. So, no, seriously, because like I'm super intelligent, like I was on honor roll and all these things, and it was great, but I didn't get in. So I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? So literally, I graduated from high school, and I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do? And I used to dance with like guys that I knew. Like we were a dance group, because when I was 19, being in a dance group was like everything, right? So dance with these guys. I'm like, okay, we can't just dance with each other for the rest of our lives. And I did a show, and this choreographer was there. Her name was Jay Blaze, and she's like, look, I have a company. It's called Blaze Entertainment, and normally it's always been women, but we're looking for guys. Would you be interested? I'm like, sure. I went to their audition. I got into the company, and like everything just snowballed for me. Like by September, I was in a movie, and then they had this thing called the Toronto show that I used to dance on regularly. I was like, everything just snowballed. So in my mind, I was like, I'm a good dancer. This is just gonna keep happening. And for a while it did, but then the industry's gotten so completely different. And that's why I said, like, I started my own company. So I had to, in my mindset, I had to adjust that being a good dancer wasn't enough. I had to, in turn, end up being my own businessman, you know, to be able to sustain my dancing. Like, start teaching at studios, doing workshops, creating my own company. And networking was a super important part of me being able to sustain myself, because the auditions weren't happening like they used to. So You Think You Can Dance came and ruined everything. And do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't, because it was no longer about you working and paying your dues. It was like, oh my gosh, just hire the girl from So You Think You Can Dance, even though she might not be the right fit for it, but she's got the face. So there was a lot of reality checks that I got, not initially, but after the fact. So that was it for me.
A lot of good stuff in there. I hope you guys are taking notes. Yeah, Estelle.
Well, for myself, it was a little bit different. So I was going to university thinking that dance was my passion, but it wasn't going to necessarily be my career, because I always thought that I was not going to be able to sustain myself financially through that. So yes, I was going to U of T, going in the evenings, my lunch hours, wherever I could. I was teaching private lessons, anything that I could to do to pay for my schooling. So for me, it was a balance between, what really am I going to do here? Am I going to be, working 9 to 5 when I'm done graduating from university, or am I going to become a dancer that maybe can I make that into a 9 to 5, or am I going to be all over the clock? So there was a lot of balancing this out, and like I was saying, that it was a snowball effect. So my classes just started taking off even more, where at that point I thought, okay, I'm only going to be a dance teacher. This is great. I'm enjoying what I do. I show up, I teach my hour-and-a-half class. Everyone is happy. I'm happy. I can go home. But it never ended at that. So for myself, it was like what you were saying, becoming your own business person. So managing everything, and I found that for myself extremely overwhelming at the beginning. So I was receiving emails, and people were like, well, I know that you're teaching classes here and you're teaching classes there, like, but do you have a company name? Like, what do I tell people? Is it just Classes with Estelle? I'm like, yeah, just Classes with Estelle. Like, I don't know. I didn't even think beyond that point. I was renting studio space, and that was that. So basically, like I said, it was for myself starting to respond to emails and creating a balance for myself, which was really difficult at first. I thought I can handle it. And then it gets to that point where you have to start to make a decision where if you're going to go into this career, you have to be versatile, you have to be adaptable, and you need to be patient and persistent at the same time, because like what Hollywood was saying is that opportunities are not always there 100% of the time, so you have to be able to fill the ups and the downs. And I thought just because I was having my dance classes, they were very steady, they were full, I thought that would be enough. But the cost of living and being in Toronto is a whole different thing. And living on my own, renting out an apartment, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? I can't afford my rent, I can't afford U of T, and I thought my classes were doing great. So that for me was where I thought I can just really live off my classes, but no, that's a tough one. Yeah.
And I think, one of the most important things that I'm hearing echoed in the panel, but something that actually is a pet peeve of mine as well, is there are so many great artists in the city. And we get so focused on sort of the performance aspect of our work, but sometimes we really forget that self-management portion that is critical in helping you sustain a career. And that's something that all the panelists have talked about. And I'm wondering if you guys can sort of hone in a little bit more specifically on giving some specific tips on how to better manage yourself so that you can have a more productive career.
like all the behind the scenes, like admin and all the extra you have to do, like, I feel like I'm always, as I said, I feel like I'm always behind at it. I feel like I'm always like, it just never feels like it's like there. You know what I mean? Like, you know when you're on stage and you're performing and you felt like, yeah, that was great. It never feels like that with admin for me. Like, it always just...
Don't listen to her, okay? I'm so sorry. I performed for her in a show called Give Me One Rhythm. She's super meticulously organized, even though in her brain it's chaotic, she's super organized, so don't listen to her.
I didn't say I was disorganized. I just feel like I'm always like behind in it. But anyways, nevertheless, yes, it's a huge thing for me. You know, it's kind of like that little like thing. You get out of school and you're just like, I'm just gonna dance. You know, I'm just gonna dance, and like, there's a huge like administrative side that is a part of your career as an independent artist. I mean, you're running your own business all over the place. You're like an independent contractor. You know, schools are hiring this. When I first started working, it was like, I just forget about invoices. I wouldn't be getting paid. Like, I'd be like, like, you know, and just all kinds of stuff would fall, you know, through the cracks because it's just hard to stay on top of it. So yeah, it's just a balancing act. And I think that you just gotta stay on top of it. It's like not letting it fall down, especially with taxes. Like, taxes, whoa, like just, yeah. Get some like serious, you know, independent artist tax advice from the time you get out of school and just like try to stay on top of it. Like, it's just a lot, you know what I mean?
There's still established like artists and dancers that are going through that right now. They're still trying to catch up on
taxes. It is just the taxes, boy, is like serious.
Jasmyn,
yeah.
Jasmyn, do you have a mentor?
I have several mentors actually.
Did you access your mentors for any advice for any of those things that you were just talking about in terms of getting organized and doing your taxes and knowing how to make a grant application?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Even when I first started writing grants, like I would send my grants to a lot of like peers and mentors, like even Kevin. You know, I'd be like, Kevin, can you read this for me? And like, you know, give me advice, like just people who were on the same path as me or like, you know, that I looked up to. That's really, really important. And like, messaging them. A lot of people are willing to help you, you know. I'm willing to help. Like, I know people message me sometimes, hey, can you read this for me for a second? Or what do you think about this? Yeah. Getting help from people and just seeing what other people might have done. It might not be your exact path, but seeing what other people have done or how they manage the admin and the other aspects of things, and even just how they manage their dance careers, like what we're doing right now, just kind of sharing, right? It's really important to really tap into that. I mean, you can ask and they can maybe not answer or choose to not engage with you in that way, but a lot of people I find are willing to. So yeah, both here and like I have mentors in New York and stuff too, like not just only here. So like keep your options wide open.
Yeah, and sorry, I'm just going to add to that, but you have to be proactive on your own end to make sure that you go out and you seek all this information. So the resources are there for you. They've always been there, and that's where. If you don't get online and you start searching for things, like I know through Dance Ontario and Dance Umbrella, like there's so many different ways about receiving all this information. We've also, I'm just gonna, in case you guys don't know, but we started a pre-professional training program at City Dance Corps specifically just for this, where it is a mentorship program that you work with different artists. Jasmyn was there. And we do everything from setting up mock auditions, so you learn how to do proper auditions. So Addie Chan comes in, we have Pyro, so they come in and they set you up as, this is your scenario, you come in and they treat it exactly as if this was, like, do you guys have audition experience? Is that something you guys wanna, like, get into, try to audition for things? Yeah? So that's something as well, like you have to look at exploring, that's how you get jobs, right? So you have to present yourself properly in those. Also resumes, writing up a proper dance resume. I myself do all the hiring at City Dance Corps, so I can't tell you how many resumes we receive and nobody knows how to fill out a proper resume, right? So that's a difficult thing as well. So getting mentorship as a whole, so right down to like your resumes, invoicing, like what we were talking about, all of this is a part of you as your own business, your own entity, your own artist, your own product. You have to know that, so. Yeah.
I wanted to highlight mentoring, just to sort of link in. We were talking about networking and the importance of networking. Pretty much all of us have mentioned it, no matter what part of the industry you're working in, or no matter what industry you're working in, whether that's dance or any other thing that you want to succeed in. Networking is so important, and by finding a mentor, you can expand your access for networking tenfold, because this person that is your mentor is ahead of you in the career you want to be in. They know the people that you want to meet, and they can put you in touch. And you have to remember, when you're asking somebody for a mentorship opportunity and you're feeling intimidated by maybe their stature in the direction that you want to go, that they were you one time and they probably had a mentor. And the worst that they can possibly say is no. And then just remember, once you have a mentor, that is your responsibility as much as it is theirs. So you have to stay in touch and be proactive. But I think that no matter what you're planning to do, finding a mentor and maintaining that relationship is the most important step in getting yourself organized in the direction you want to go.
And I think one of the most important things that you'll come across that's difficult for, I think, all artists, not just dancers, is the discussion around money. And how do you approach the conversation with someone who wants to hire you? It's uncomfortable, but you still have to pay your bills. So any advice and tips on how to manage or approach that topic? Because it can be uncomfortable, even for seasoned performers or artists. It can be a very difficult and uncomfortable subject to approach. But especially if you're an independent artist and you're not part of a company, you have to sort of be proactive, as we've discussed, in managing that aspect of it. Otherwise, you're always going to be trying to wait tables and do this, which, you'll have to do at some point. But any tips or advice on that?
My advice would be to, know your worth. Right? A lot of times we undervalue ourselves, and in doing that, it just ruins everything. You know what I mean? So know your worth, and don't be direct. Like, don't sort of skate around it. Like someone's talking to you about, hey, I have this show opportunity, blah, 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 blah. There'll be this many people there. They'll make it seem like it's the most grand thing in the world. And then when it comes to money, it's like, oh, well, we really don't have a budget, blah, blah, blah. You just told me thousands of people are going to be here. You know what I'm saying? So know your worth and be direct when you're having those conversations, because any business person will appreciate you from that standpoint. It's like, so both you know what they're expecting from you and they know what you're expecting from them. That is my advice, because I've had some very horrible situations where things weren't clarified, and then I ended up getting less than I assumed that I would be getting, but that's because I made an assumption as opposed to getting a definitive answer. So be direct.
For me, it would be more just always being open and communicating. So if you're being hired for anything, make sure that there's a contract. So I know for us that we don't do anything without signing contracts, and making sure that it's a mutually agreed upon service that you're providing, or they're providing for you, either way. That way you can also budget for yourself. So if you've got work lined up for the month, if you've got X amount of contracts signed, then you know that that's going to be guaranteed income. But if nothing is signed and put on paper, that's not guaranteed. So like what Hollywood is saying, at the end of the day, someone can approach you with a really grand idea, and we can talk about it for days, we can talk about it for months, but at the end of the day, if there's nothing signed on paper, it's not going to be guaranteed. So that's my advice to you, is just making sure that if you're trying to budget, if there's a specific amount of money you need to be making monthly, weekly, set your work up, make sure you have a signed contract.
Thank you. Now, before we move on, I'll get to you in 1 second. After Jasmyn, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up to you guys. So if you guys have any questions, just make a mental note right now, and you'll get a chance to ask our panelists about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say also that, as an artist, like sometimes there are opportunities that you will get, especially as a young artist, they're not financially lucrative. However, they may be beneficial to you in terms of like mentorship, what we just spoke about, in terms of, your artistic growth, training, gaining some other kind of thing, like not monetary thing, but another gain. So, obviously another experience. Yeah, so obviously be particular, like you don't want to be taken advantage of, but you know, when I was first starting out too, like just got out of school, like sometimes there'd be opportunity that, you know, maybe I'm just getting a little honorarium, but I'm getting to work with this person, or I'm getting to learn this particular thing, or, you know, dance with these particular people or work in this way. And so sometimes that trade-off, it's not a monetary trade-off. Like obviously make sure you have your bill, your money for your rent and all that stuff, but sometimes you're gaining in other ways. So just, you know, it's important to be particular about that, because sometimes artists, just other fellow artists, don't have the means to pay you what they really want to. Like a lot of times when I get a grant, and I'll tell my dancers right off the bat, this is the project, this is how much I have, so they can then decide if they're able to do what I need them to do within that budget, you know. And it's not always, you know, not usually a huge, you know, amount of money. Like a lot of independent artists, we don't have that much money to be paying off. So it's just, I'm just saying to just consider that as well. Yeah?
And to beware if anyone's approaching you to work and isn't ready to have that conversation with you.
That was a
Don't
good
worry.
one. That was a good one.
Thank you so much, panelists. We're now going to open it up to your questions. We have about 20 minutes. So, questions out there? Oh, come on, guys. You should have tons of questions. Oh, there.
I actually have one specifically for Jasmyn. It's kind of been like thinking about that for a while. But how is it managing with a child?
People always ask me that question. You just do it. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I always say it's like you're juggling 3 balls and then you have a 4th. You already knew how to juggle, you just a little bit more to juggle. Do you know what I mean? Manoa is like super, like, I don't know, well, none of you probably met him except for Gracie, I think. But anyways, he's pretty cool, he's a really cool kid. He's always been around like my rehearsals, I bring him to shows, he's like totally down, you know? So that's easy too. Like, it's not like I have a kid who's, and I mean, I think that's obviously environment as well. Like, he just was like, I don't know, he was in my belly, I was dancing still. So, you know, it's just kind of one of those things. But yeah, you just, like, when you're already a busy person and you're adding more busyness to that busyness, you just do it. It's not like you go from being like doing nothing and sedentary to all of a sudden having everything, right? I've always been busy. Like, since I was a kid, I was always in sports and dance and this and that. So I think adding it in, you just add it in. He has his own extracurriculars now too. He does a drumming class, piano, and 2 dance classes. So that's another additional thing to just add, because he's obviously getting bigger now too. He has his own stuff and he wants to do his own performances and, you know, his own thing. So yeah, it's a lot of scheduling and not a lot of sleep. Yeah, but you know, you just make it work and you roll with the punches, and me and Maddie have a lot of fun. So yeah, it's busy though. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
This is a question more for Jasmyn and Hollywood. Let's start now, but when you were first starting out, how did you make decisions about having ideas and having all these projects on the go, or projects you want to work on, and deciding which ones you want to do if they do conflict, or deciding to do one even though there's another one that might come up that you want to do? Like,
The whole selective process.
yeah.
For me, what I've always done is I communicate, like Estelle was saying. Like, communication is so important, because as artists, you know, for example, like working with Jasmyn, one of the times, like, I was producing my show while I was rehearsing for her show, and you schedule things, and sometimes things collide. And it's just about being open and honest and communicating. It's like, look, I already have this scheduled. It's not that I'm not still committed to you. It's just I can't make this rehearsal, this rehearsal, this rehearsal. But in doing that as a dancer, you are still responsible for learning whatever you missed and coming in and being prepared. And I've never met a choreographer who's ever had a problem with that. You know what I mean? And I've worked here and internationally, like even in LA. It's like, we all are trying to do this and make money, do you know what I mean? And be able to live our lives. So it really just is about communicating and not waiting to the last minute to communicate. When I first started, if somebody called me and I wasn't doing nothing, I did it. If there was a check involved or not. And because I had that mentality, that's where a lot of my networking came from. Like, people just saw that I was A, I was good, B, I was hungry, and C, I was always ready to go and ready to learn. Like, I'm predominantly like an urban style dancer, but like I was doing like African things and contemporary things just because I wanted to learn, you know, and that really helped me a lot.
But to add to that, I think also once you get going, when you start off, you need to be open to opportunities for the learning experience and to build your portfolio. But once you get rolling, you know, one of the things that you want to do is also sort of just take a step back. You don't have to give an answer right away to things. Sometimes as dancers, we're sort of like, opportunities come, we have to say yes to everything because we don't want to miss out. But just take a minute and see, okay, does this align with the direction that I'm going? Does this align with the purpose of what I'm trying to do as an artist in my career? So just take a minute to sit back with it and see what's the purpose or reason that you want to do this project. Because a lot of times we say yes just because we don't want to say no. And so just take that moment to give yourself the space to make that decision without feeling pressure. Any other questions? Yes?
If you are like part of a company or something, how, like, and you've been there for a while, how do you bring up a conversation with like the artistic director to, like, if you want to move on to something else or like move to another company, like what's the etiquette of bringing that up with whoever you have to bring that up with?
The only company I was with for a really long time, for 4 years, was Kevin's company, Cachet Dance, and I actually didn't like want to leave the company necessarily. It's just my schedule with my own company was conflicting, and we were producing shows at the same time. I couldn't make his rehearsal schedule, so it was kind of just like, it just faded. He's just grinning. It just faded, faded out. But basically, I had the conversation, and I was also, just to piggyback off of your question as well, so kind of with both, was like, I was gonna just say to just have, like, write down. I didn't do this at the beginning of my career. I do it a bit more now, where you have a vision board or have like somewhere where you write down, like a journal, something. Write down what you want, like what your main goals are. Because I mean, we can just be seagulls, like grabbing every little opportunity, but it's like, what do you really want to do? You know what I mean? Do you want to do your own work? And I knew that as much as I love working with Kevin and other choreographers too, and I still do, I really, at the time, it was a time where I really wanted to put a lot of my own work out there, so I wanted to make sure that I was putting enough energy into that. And so I think that writing that down for yourself as well, like even if you're with somebody and maybe you feel like, okay, like this is sort of a phase I've been through, write down what you want and like go for what you want. Follow your gut as an artist. Like that's really important, and that kind of, I feel, hopefully answers both of your questions.
Can I just add to
yeah,
that?
sure, go ahead.
Too? Is that, again, goes back to communication. Like, you can't be shy to approach someone and just tell them how you're feeling. If it's something that for you, it's like a goal that you had already set in mind, that by a specific amount of years that you've been with this company, like, where is it that you want to go? Like, for yourself, are you thinking you want to start to choreograph yourself more, or artistically you want to be challenged more as a dancer? Like, what is it for you?
No, I'm just thinking, like, if you want to like move to another company, like if you're starting from Toronto and then you go to the States, or just like move somewhere else and just explore.
And there's nothing wrong with that, and that's a part of this industry. So you evolve your artistic self, like you want to start trying out on different things. Moving, locations is also another thing. So as long as you're open, and I always find too, like myself as a choreographer, you never want to put the person in an awkward situation where you're kind of just dumping them on the spot and leaving them. So there's always a mutual respect, right? Because as a choreographer, you do everything you can to give to your dancers as well and empower them so that they can pull out that vision for you. But if you come to me and say, by the way, tomorrow I'm quitting, I want to go somewhere else. Just talk about it, give them some heads up. At least they know where you're at. And also, if you have a good relationship with them, they can offer you advice and help you make those proper decisions to meet those goals for yourself. Yeah.
I want to just add, as a dancer and a choreographer, I've been in the position where I've had to, or I've wanted to remove myself from a company, and I've had people remove themselves from my company. And the best advice I can give you is to sit down with this person, because if you've been with this company for a while, you and this artistic director, choreographer, whoever, obviously have some sort of a relationship. You should be able to and feel comfortable enough to go to them and be like, you know, in September, I'm transitioning out. Do you know what I mean? Or I'm taking a leave of absence, or whatever the case is. Because if you do that and you do it well, the choreographer now is supportive of your decision. Do you know what I mean? And if you do decide you want to be your own choreographer and start your own company, you now have the support of that choreographer, creative director, and subsequently that company. So that's extra support for you. Do you know what I mean? It's really, you want to make sure that you never burn a bridge. You know, it's like parting doesn't have to be negative. It can totally be a positive thing. You might have outgrown that company, and that's totally okay. And don't feel like you have to stay somewhere out of respect for anybody. Like, you've done everything that you can do with that company, and now it's time for you to move on. It's just about communicating and being open and honest about it. Don't stay and mess things up for people.
I think the way to avoid that is not having that conversation be the first conversation that you're having with this person about your career goals, your brand, what is it that you're working on. You should be having regular conversations with this person about that and asking them to help support you in that direction. And so by the time you're having the conversation, which is the I'm leaving conversation, it should be a surprise to anybody, because that person should have been trying to support you in a direction. If you're not meeting your goals, it should be no surprise that you're planning another path.
Follow your gut always, everybody, in everything you do. Your gut will not lie to you in anything. Art stuff, life, just follow your gut. When you feel that gut feeling that, hey, you know, time's up for this, or I really want to go to this, or I want to do that, just go for it.
We had a question around here. Oh, a couple. Back there, yes.
I'm somewhat interested, but how do you make the transition from dancer to choreographer or choreographer to dancer? Like, I'm having a hard time figuring out how I want to brand myself, and if you only brand one, or can you do both at the same time? Or is it always dancer choreographer?
You can do both at the same time, but what I will say as a choreographer is that a lot of times people will sometimes view you as one or the other. When you choreograph, it's like people will see, okay, that person makes their own stuff, so they might not necessarily use you for other things. I do both, but I do find that sometimes people will view you as one or the other. I think if you want to do both, just continue to do both at the same time. Because if you do more of one, people box you, right? Like, that's how life is. People put you in a box. What kind of dancer are you? You're this? Okay, boom. What do you do? Oh, you're a teacher, but like, you know what I mean? That's what people do. So try to continue to do both. So, you know, do your dance projects, and then when you have your choreography projects, like do your choreography projects as well, and try to make sure that they're running similar. Like that's what I do, and I still continue to do that. Sometimes one will overtake, sometimes I'll have more dance projects and less choreography, or vice versa. But definitely, yeah, don't, like, unless you really just want, some people like literally like they're dancers and then they just want to be a choreographer and they want to make that straight transition and they don't dance anymore. That's different. But it sounds like you kind of want to do both. Yeah, so just literally try to just go through both paths at the same time. Yeah?
But I think also that sort of touches on this whole idea of parallel careers. So as artists, we can't just focus on, I mean, we'd love to just be on stage and perform, most of us, but some people teach, some people get into health sciences. So maybe, Beth, you can actually just talk a little bit about that idea of maintaining both.
I realized that I didn't think that I could sustain that for any longer than a few years maybe, and I wanted to find some way that I could have dance in my life, but I needed regularity, I needed financial stability. These are it was a process of several years where I had to become honest with myself about what I actually could tolerate. So that is when I made the decision to go back to school and try for a parallel career. So I did a bunch of research about what types of things I could study that would be employable, that wouldn't take too much time, because I didn't want to go back and do another undergraduate degree. And lots of my friends chose different things. I chose physiotherapy, but several of my friends went to teachers college or studied arts administration or did some other sort of healing art, massage, or chiropractic. Lots of choices like that that allows some flexibility, especially if you're able to work for yourself, as many of those careers I just named are able to do, to mold your schedule around your dancing schedule so that you can, and the teachers are doing this too, right? You go to a rehearsal and then teach classes here and have a varied schedule. The challenge, as I say, is that you're not involved in dance full time, so you can very easily lose track and lose touch of what's going on in that community. So the benefits, stability, financial security, but in exchange, losing touch with the community if you're not careful.
I think we have time for one or two more questions. Oh, that's a tough one. Let's take you first, and then the lady right at the back.
I know we were talking about like as a performer and like getting your wage and like figuring that out from the beginning, getting that in paper. But as a choreographer, how do you like I guess decide how much? Because clearly you're going to want to give like your performers as much as you possibly can, but still maintaining your own wage. Like what is that divide? Like when do you put yourself first? I guess.
Well, it's funny that you say that because at the beginning, like I used to like not pay myself.
Right.
And then I would get advice and be like, you have to pay yourself. You know what I mean? Like people would tell me, you have to pay yourself. So I said, okay. But like it's like when the pot is so small, you know, you have these dancers coming out and you just have some little piece of money. It's like, you know. But you do have to pay yourself. You know, well, there's always the CATA rates to look at when you're applying for like grants and funding and stuff like that. And if people ask you to like do a gig, like as Estelle said, a corporate gig or, you know, something on the side, just try to figure out a rate for yourself, like based on that CATA rate and based on, you know, what their budget is. I usually say to people like, this is my rate, what's your budget? And we usually can find some sort of negotiation, you know what I mean? Like some places, they can actually afford what your rate is, and some places can pay you more than what your rate is, and some places, they genuinely don't have the money. So it's really like a case-by-case situation. You want to make sure that whatever you're paying your dancers and whatever you're paying yourself, that you're able to negotiate that and make sure that everyone is understanding that that's fair. So like for me, when I am doing, like for example, I just produced Pulse, so I had a certain amount of money from the Ontario Arts Council. I knew exactly what that was. Before the project started, I said to my dancers, this is how much I'm paying you for your rehearsals, flat rate. Boom. So they know right off the bat, before I even tell them about rehearsal date, location, they know exactly what it is, right? So they can decide, okay, boom, boom, and I know exactly what my rate is for that as well, which actually, I kind of didn't pay myself, but it's just because I didn't have enough money. You know, I wasn't really able to pay myself properly, but that's just the way it worked this time. I didn't, you know what I mean? Whatever. It's fine, it happens, right? So, I'm not trying to change myself. It's just like sometimes it happens, like it's whatever. Then box office, they knew, okay, from box office, whatever I make from box office, I'll divvy it up and like, boom, I don't know what that amount will be. And they know that, you know what I mean? So that you make sure that everything is well communicated. But yeah, obviously try to pay yourself. I paid myself, but I wasn't able to pay myself like what I would have liked to. But you know, money was, it's just, you just gotta figure it out sometime, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know if I answered you. Did I answer you? Okay.
To answer that really quickly short. The thing is, in Canada, our industry is still relatively really young. You know what I mean? Whereas like LA, New York, they have unions and there's like a very clear, if you want to hire dancers to go on tour, the minimum rate you can pay them is this. Like there's a very clear structure over there, whereas here, those lines are still very gray. You know what I mean? So to piggyback off what she's saying is basically you have to, as a choreographer, make a decision. I'm paying myself this much, and this is how much my dancers need to get paid, and you try to negotiate to get as close to that as possible. And sometimes, like she just said, you don't always end up paying yourself what you want to pay yourself in order to pay your talent. So.
I think we have time for just to squeeze in one last question back there. Yes. That's a good one because we don't really, I mean, it's hard to get agents here for dance, right? So.
My number one advice, network. Find out who the choreographers are who are working find out who the casting directors who are casting, and network your way that way. Find out who the dancers are who are booking the jobs. Network with them, because they're going to be the ones who are best able to help you get in. Do you know what I mean? Like, if Jasmyn, I'm doing a show and I'm like, Jasmyn, I need like a really pretty Asian girl who can dance in heels. And you and Jasmyn are friends from you meeting Jasmyn at a show. Jasmyn's like, oh my God, I know this girl, blah, 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 blah. And because I'm friends with Jasmyn and I know Jasmyn, and Jasmyn's not just gonna recommend some random person to me, that's how you get in. Do you know what I mean? So that's how commercially things work over here. Your networking is your best friend. So find out who the casting directors are who are booking, and all that information is easy. Just look at the credits. It tells you who casted it. Find out who the choreographers are, again, credits. Network with the dancers who are working right now.
And that's where self-management is so important, because if you're bad at managing yourself, no matter how talented you are, that person's going to be like, you know what, I'm not going to recommend that person, even though they're totally capable of doing it, but they may not show up, or they may be late, or whatever. But I think we ran out of time, unfortunately.
Sorry, can I just say one last thing?
Yeah, sure.
So my main advice to everyone, again, just for yourselves, whatever path that you want to take, like we had already covered, is just make sure you know yourself and what you really want. That's going to be your toughest challenge, especially at your age, and a lot of different things going on. So if you know what you want and what your expectations are, making sure that you create a support system around you that knows exactly what you want as well, and then they can support you the entire way. Because no one can really help you out if you yourself don't really know what you want to do either, right? So start to clear your minds and write down your goals, and like what you guys were saying, like get that vision board, whatever you have to do just to clear all that clutter that goes on. As artists, our heads are everywhere. You wear a lot of different hats, but again, as long as you know yourselves where you want to take this career for yourself, communicate that to people around you, create a strong support system, because if they know what you want, they will help you get there. Yeah, so just remember that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you. Let's give a big round of applause for